Mind. Although the organ synonymous with the mind, the brain, is a part of the body, the mind is responsible for the incredible mental faculties of a being, such as intelligence, thinking, creativity, and imagination, and therefore deserves individual attention. These mental faculties of the mind go beyond the physical capabilities of the body, and so must be discussed. The mind is the executive center of a being. The mind thinks, it decides, it plans, it controls, it commands the body to action. From automatic actions like breathing to more deliberate actions like writing an article, the mind is responsible for transforming thoughts and signals into action. Thus, it is an essential source of power, because in order to turn will into reality, the mind must transform ideas, decisions, and plans into action, as well as maintain regular bodily processes to keep one alive, healthy, and functional. The mind is also responsible for intelligence and thinking skills, which are important for transforming will into reality. Goals, especially challenging ones, often require a plan of action. Good strategy is often essential to successfully achieving goals. The mind's intelligence and thinking skills form plans of action and strategies to achieve goals. The mind then commands the body to execute these plans of actions and these strategies, turning will into reality. Additionally, the creativity and imagination that the mind is responsible for are incredibly important in solving problems and creating solutions to achieve goals and turn will into reality. They assist the mental faculties of intelligence and thinking skills to form better plans of action and better strategies for attaining what one desires. Creativity and imagination often lead to new ways of thinking and new solutions that can achieve what no one has achieved before. Many inventions and innovations are a result of great creativity and imagination, and the inventors and the innovators of the world are the pioneers for the advancement of humanity. There are other powerful faculties of the mind. Memory, for example, is needed to remember and retain information useful for coming up with ideas, making decisions, and forming plans, solutions, and strategies to turn will into reality. Memory is also needed to remember and retain knowledge and skills, another source of power, as well as to remember people, interactions, and events to master social influence, yet another source of power. To be able to remember is simply an essential part of living a fulfilling life, for one's memory makes up who one is. Memories play a major role in forming a person. The mind is responsible for memory, as well as the other mental faculties. The mind is responsible for learning and developing knowledge and skills and encoding them to its memory. Greater intelligence, thinking skills, and overall mental functioning increase the mind's ability to perform this task. The mind is also responsible for applying the knowledge it possesses for practical purposes. Many skills are mental skills. Even physical skills rely on the mind to command the body into action and to remember them. Mental ability can also help in learning and understanding different techniques for both mental and physical skills, as well as come up with new ones that are effective. Knowledge and skills, an entire source of power, relies on the mind. The mind also plays a large role in managing social relationships and interactions. It is connected to the development and exercise of social skills. Language and communication, for example, are heavily dependent on the mind. Processing social cues, developing social intuition, making social decisions, and taking social actions are all connected to the mind. Thus, social influence, another source of power, is also heavily associated with the mind. The mind is also responsible for analytical and deductive processes that are useful for analyzing and drawing conclusions from knowledge and information. Information is often useful and many times even necessary to achieve goals. The mind analyzes and deduces conclusions from relevant information to provide ideas on how to accomplish goals. Analysis and deduction are also skills which, as discussed before, rely heavily on the mind. The mind is an incredibly important source of power. Just as one would train the body to boost its power, one should also train the mind to boost its power. Sharpening the mind and building its capabilities through mental exercises like reading, writing, calculating, creating, visualizing, socializing, communicating, experimenting, etc., will increase the mind's power. These activities activate, exercise, and train the mind, improving its functioning, capability, and overall power. Learning and developing knowledge and skills also boost the power of the mind, building up two sources of power at the same time. Since the mind is also heavily involved with socialization, socializing to increase social influence also builds up two sources of power at the same time: the mind and social influence. Social intelligence is an important form of intelligence. Mental health is an essential element to the power of the mind. A person who has mental problems will have difficulty performing the tasks necessary to turn will into reality. Fear, anxiety, worry, depression, and other mental obstacles can prevent one from taking action. These obstacles can also lead to procrastination and can hamper one's performance in whatever task one does undertake. Addiction problems and lack of self-control can cause one to veer away from working towards one's goals and towards self-destructive behavior. Many people who have succumbed to addiction problems and lack the self-control to overcome them have destroyed their own health, finances, and relationships. Drug addiction alone, for example, can destroy all three of these things. Drug addiction can ravage one's health, soak up money from one's finances, and lead to bad behaviors that ruin one's relationships. Addiction problems and lack of self-control also take away from the valuable time needed to accomplish what one wants in life, causing one to divert that time to satisfy one's addictions and compulsive behavior instead, and resulting in a lack of focus towards achieving one's goals. Other mental health problems, including mental disorders and illnesses, obviously also handicap people's ability to act, think, and live properly and optimally, thereby preventing and hindering people from getting what they want in life, and thus reducing their power. Mental health is important to maintain, improve, and exercise the overall power of the mind. A mind with mental health problems will have issues maintaining its capabilities. Many mental health problems lead to declines in mental ability. Furthermore, mental health problems can impair the improvement and exercise of the power of the mind. The mind's mental fortitude is such a strong source of power that throughout history, military commanders have used psychological warfare to demoralize the enemy and weaken their will to fight. Commanders sow fear, disillusionment, and internal distrust in enemy forces to achieve military goals and to prevent the enemy from achieving their own goals. Soldiers and even entire armies have surrendered, deserted, or fought less effectively due to fear, disillusionment, and internal distrust, the products of psychological operations. Psychological warfare can also be used to induce mental health problems in the enemy. Drugs can be distributed and promoted to the enemy to create drug addiction problems. Loud noises and harassment can be used to disturb the enemy's sleep and undermine their mental and physical functioning through sleep deprivation. These efforts are taken because they undermine the enemy's mental state to prevent them from operating at their best, making it easier to achieve military goals over the enemy. The enemy's reduction in mental fortitude is a reduction in the enemy's power, as they are less capable of achieving their own objectives. Conversely, commanders who take action to maintain and boost their warriors' morale, lead them through fear and uncertainty, and maintain and build trust and cohesion, often get the best out of their warriors. Such is the power of mental fortitude. Of course, psychological warfare is also used to deceive, mislead, and misdirect, but this section focuses on how it is used to undermine the mental fortitude of the enemy, to demonstrate the importance of mental fortitude as an element in the power of the mind. Deceiving, misleading, and misdirecting would be relevant to another source of power: knowledge and skills. as it causes the enemy to have false or incomplete knowledge, which undermines their ability to apply what they know to achieve their will. Psychological warfare can also be used for other purposes, and not always against an outright enemy. It can take the form of other subversive activities aimed at influencing the minds and behavior of target audiences. Propaganda campaigns, for example, can lead a target audience to change their minds and behavior in a way favorable to the propagandists. These influence campaigns are not limited to psychological warfare either. Politicians, businesses, marketers, activists, etc. all seek to influence the minds and behavior of target audiences to achieve their respective objectives. They can take on media campaigns, marketing campaigns, and other activities to influence their target audience. These activities demonstrate the power of the mind, because they aim to influence the mind, which in turn influences behavior. Changes in the mind can lead to changes in behavior. So influence and control over the minds of others means influence and control over the behavior of others. The ability to change the minds and behavior of others is incredibly powerful. Those with this ability can use it to achieve their objectives and turn their will into reality. Likewise, people should be mindful of what they feed their minds. Outside influences can have an effect on the mind, and this effect can in turn have an effect on behavior. If one wants to achieve certain goals, one should feed the mind with influences that are conducive to achieving those goals. Feeding the mind with positive, inspiring, and energizing influences will invigorate one's mental strength and enthusiasm. Feeding the mind with negative, demoralizing, and draining influences will weaken one's mental strength and enthusiasm. Feeding the mind with relevant information, useful knowledge, and smart ways of thinking can also help in achieving one's goals. Such information, knowledge, and ideas prime the mind to focus on achieving those goals, as the mind is stimulated with the tools to do so. Feeding the mind with distractions and bad ways of thinking can impede one's path to achieve one's goals. They can cause one to stray away from those goals. Bad influences on the mind can also lead to addiction problems and other destructive behavior. Whether consciously or unconsciously, what one feeds the mind will impact the state of the mind, and this in turn will impact behavior. Feed the mind to invigorate mental strength and enthusiasm, which provide the fortitude and energy to transform will into reality. Avoid feeding the mind with influences that will do the opposite. Feed the mind with the tools it needs to achieve one's goals, and they will also stimulate the mind to focus on those goals. Avoid feeding the mind with distractions and bad influences that can steer one away from those goals. The mind has a powerful effect on behavior. That is another element to the power of the mind. It must be emphasized that the state of the body and the state of the mind are closely interlinked. As mentioned before, and it should be mentioned again for emphasis, body, mind, and spirit are one. These three elements of a being are interconnected. Signals from the body affect the mind, and signals from the mind affect the body. Both affect and are affected by the spirit, which shall be discussed next. Physical strength and health is linked to mental strength and health. Personal experience should be enough to demonstrate to the reader that taking care of one's body will also benefit the mind, and vice versa. Many studies have been done to confirm this connection as well, if it wasn't already obvious enough. Exercise boosts mental well-being and reduces mental problems. A happy, calm, and stable mental state, without stress, boosts heart health, strengthens the immune system, and prevents the physical symptoms of stress, such as headaches, muscle tension, chest pain, fatigue, sleep problems, etc. A productive exercise session can leave one feeling good, happy, and calm afterwards. An unhappy event can lead to streams of tears crying from one's eyes. The body and mind function together.